Well, Alvaro asked, different Alvaro, thoughts are thoughts. The content of them is what creates the illusion. It's what creates illusion. So I repeat, Alvaro, you say, thoughts are thoughts. The content of them is what creates the illusion. Okay, Alvaro, if you are hearing me, otherwise, if you're not online, I don't see you online, you could always listen to the answer to your question by going on YouTube.
I listen you. Magdi, do you listen me?
Oh, okay, okay. Prudent. Okay, it's you, Alvaro. Okay. Yes.
I don't know why the camera is not working. I don't know, but I can hear you very well.
Okay, very well. So I just want to clarify, that an illusion is like a magician. A magician can do an illusion, can sort of, take a saw or take a blade and put a lady in a box, and put the sword or the saw through the box and cut the lady in two, and then you open the box and the lady is not cut in two. So the illusion is that the magician is cutting the lady in two, while in fact she hasn't been cut in two. So there is a belief that something is happening to me or happening to this lady. She's getting hurt, but in fact she's not. So that's the illusion. But in terms of how it relates to the non-dual teaching, you could say that everything you experience, every perception, every thought, like this perception, is an illusion, meaning it looks as if there is a tree in the yard, but maybe there is no tree in the yard. Your perception says, oh, there is a tree in the yard. Your thinking, your thoughts say, well, there is a tree in the yard. And that leads you to believe and experience that there is a tree in the yard. But the question is, what is in fact this tree that's in the yard? Is there actually a tree in the yard? Now, if there is no tree in the yard, then there is an illusion that you're perceiving a tree and that you're thinking there is a tree, but in fact there is no tree. So if you go to the tree and you hug the tree, it feels like there is a tree, yes? It feels like there is a tree. You're sensing a tree. It's solid. In the non-dual teaching, there is a difference that we make, a distinction that I make between ignorance and the illusory world. Let me clarify what I mean by that. Ignorance refers to imagining yourself, meaning thinking that you are a body-mind, a mortal body-mind, and feeling that you are a mortal body-mind. And the reason why this is referred to as ignorance, because in that belief structure, there is a moving away ignoring, there is an ignoring what knows, what perceives the body-mind, and an identification with the body-mind that is perceived. In other words, we're identifying with our bodily sensation, we're identifying with thoughts and memories. And in our thought structure, there is a belief structure that I am born. In other words, we inherit that. Somebody tells us, you're born in such and such a hospital and so on, but they're referring to the body, you see? And because we're identifying with the body, we believe that we are indeed born. So the ignorance refers to identifying consciousness, what perceives, what is real, with what comes and goes, what appears, what is impermanent. Now, that requires thought. It requires the thought that I am born. It requires the thought that I'm a man. It requires the thought that I'm a father, or that I'm a son, etc. So it does require thought. But there are other thoughts that have nothing to do with ignorance. For example, it's a very lovely day today. That's a thought. It's a very lovely day. It's a beautiful day. It's a sunny day. It's a fall day. The foliage looks very, very beautiful. It's just very lovely. Such a thought has no identification in it. There is no identity in it. It is strictly an expression of a certain perception. Right? So it does not define me. The thoughts that define me, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I am big, I'm strong, I'm getting smarter, I'm enlightened, I am stupid, I don't like my neighbor doesn't love me. It's all these sorts of thoughts are particular thoughts that define me as a person. These sorts of thoughts do not only create an illusion, meaning the impression that I am a mortal body-mind, but they also create ignorance, meaning they create a movement away from consciousness, an impression of being separate from consciousness, and that leads to suffering. So I like the story of the magician that's cutting the lady in half. Okay, when a father goes with his son to the circus, and the magician is cutting the lady in half, right? The son, the little boy who is maybe 10 years old, he's terrified. He says, "Oh my God, Daddy, look what's happening! This guy is cutting this lady in half." But the father is smiling. Right? The father is smiling. Why? Because the father knows that it is an illusion. So an illusion that has ignorance attached to it creates fear and suffering, terror. Oh my God, we have to do something. There is a danger. Right? But the father is just giggling. He's laughing. He's telling his son, don't worry, all is well. See? So thought is not a culprit. Thought is not a problem. There are no problems in thought. The impression of separation that causes suffering is when there is a thought that says, I am born, and we believe it. You see, for example, in my case, Somebody asks me, you know, when are you born? I tell them I'm born, you know, January 6th, etc. You see? But I don't believe it. I know that I'm referring to a body event, to a body-mind event. But I know that what I truly am is not born. So it's like the father that goes to the circus and sees the magician cutting the lady in half. He's just giggling inside. Yeah? So, it's the content of thought may create an illusion, but the illusion does not necessarily signify ignorance and suffering. You may be aware of the illusion. For example, I am aware that this body is a male body, but I know myself to be consciousness, and consciousness has no gender.
Right.
So I wouldn't focus so much on illusion. I would focus on the impressions that cause suffering. Who cares if all of this is an illusion? I mean, right now we could be inside of a hologram. This could be a holographic experience. Who cares? I don't mind. I love what I see. I'm having fun talking with you. I love you, you love me. We're good friends. It's all beautiful. What do I care if it's a hologram or not? Right?
Right.
Because it's a fun hologram. But when there is suffering, then it's worth my investigation. Yes, it's worth my investigation. And the suffering occurs when I imagine myself to be a character in time and space, a character inside of the hologram. Now, I perceive in the hologram infinite minds, infinite characters. But I know myself to be the entire hologram and not just a particular piece of the hologram. You follow?
Yes.
I am the entire field, the entire holographic field,
Right.
not a particular holographic event. I am all holographic events, or all holographic events are connected to the field, and I am the field, but not a particular holographic event.
Right.
So it's like, I use the metaphor sometimes of an electric current. You have electric current, the electric grid in the village or in the house that lights all the different light bulbs in the kitchen, in the living room, in the dining room, in the laundry room. If any light bulb goes out, a light bulb burns, nothing happens to the electric grid, nothing happens to electric current. Nothing happens to me, nothing happens to the field, no matter whatever happens in the holographic domain, nothing happens to the holographic field. You follow?
Yes. Right.
So consciousness, nothing happens to consciousness. All happenings are at the mind level.
But,
meaning,
yeah, Magdi, when you speak about the holographic, we can say holographic is everything what we perceive through our sense.
Yeah, you could say that.
Including mind.
There are holographic events, using that language. There are holographic events, thoughts, perceptions, sensations, memories, yes.
Right.
But the field is the entire domain. Another way of putting it is that there are mind events, thoughts, perceptions, sensations. But what you truly are is that knows, that perceives all perceptions.
Exactly. Right.
And that's the field in the using the
Okay.
holographic metaphor. Thoughts, bodies, thoughts, bodily sensations, and perceptual impressions, perceptions are holographic events, and the field is consciousness that knows all these events, that creates all these events out of itself.
Exactly. Is where everything comes, appear, and disappear.
Right, arising out of the field,
Exactly.
and dissolving back into the field.
Exactly.
Nothing happens to the field when something arises out of it or recedes back into it. When a thought arises or a thought dissolves, nothing happens to consciousness.
Right.
So ignorance, the illusion plus the suffering, an illusion plus a me plus a suffering, meaning ignorance, is when a certain event arises and there is the impression that something is happening to me. Me meaning something is happening to consciousness. In fact, nothing happens to consciousness.
Right. But there is this movement of consciousness who identify with a character in the holographic events.
Yes.
It's what create that illusion that I am that character.
That I am a character, right. So the process of Advaita is to come to the realization that I am dreaming these characters, I am choosing this identification, and in the realization that I am actually choosing this identification, there is a recognition that I am not the character that I am choosing to identify with. In a way, it's a game that I'm choosing to play. So right now, I'm choosing the game to be this male character, speaking these words. But I know myself, and that's the key thing, I know myself to be the knower, the awareness, the consciousness that perceives these perceptions. And it's not sufficient to have an understanding of that. It's an ongoing process of contemplation that in time dissolves the impression of personhood and dissolves the sense of being a person, expands the body-mind into consciousness, brings the body-mind back to its source. There is a habitual tendency, Alvaro, to identify with the body-mind. And we do it throughout the day, and we do it in our night dreams.
Right.
So this habit is so entrenched that we don't even notice it. It goes below the radar. That I am a man and I'm living in time and space and I'm born on such and such a date and I'm getting better every day and I'm getting smarter and I'm getting more enlightened and I'm getting wealthier and I'm getting whatever, or I'm getting more white hair, I'm getting a pot belly, I'm starting to lose my memory. The identification with the body-mind, it goes under the radar. So it's really important to bring it to your attention, to become aware that there is this identification that is going on throughout the day. And that, in fact, there is another dimension, which is the dimension of consciousness that is ever present, which is that which right now perceives this perception. There is a reality that knows all what is known. which is that the reality of this perception right now. Whatever is real right now that perceives this perception. Even if it's a dream perception, it doesn't matter. It could be a dream right now. We could be deeply inside of a hologram right now. But there is something that is aware of this perception. There is a reality, even to a holographic perception, there is a reality that perceives, that knows this holographic perception. That reality is real right here, right now, and it is what is referred to as consciousness. What we refer to every day in our conversations as I am perceiving this perception. The capital I.
Right.
And that I is not contained in any container. Everything is contained in it. This perception is appearing in I. I am perceiving this perception. This perception is appearing in me. Mm-hmm. Yes? Mm-hmm. You follow?
Yes.
I am not appearing inside the perception. The perception is appearing in me. I am perceiving this perception. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. So the perception could be a bird, it could be the screen, whatever it is appearing in me. Mm-hmm. Yes? I don't appear inside the perception. So there is a dimension, an I dimension, awareness, consciousness dimension, that is effortless. It's there. Mm-hmm. In religious terms, they refer to it as God. In the Christian tradition or other traditions, they refer to it as God. The Father, that knows all his children, that knows all its dreams, that perceives all its perceptions.
Yes. I am curious about when we go to sleep, Martin, because when in this state of awareness, we are aware about that, perceptions, the holographic field, all that. But when we go to sleep, we disappear totally.
No, Alvaro. When you go to sleep, the world disappears, right?
Okay.
The body disappears, right?
Uh-huh.
Thoughts, mentation disappear, right? But you don't disappear.
How do I know that?
No, let me ask you, how do you know that you disappear?
Well,
you said I disappear, right? So I'm asking you to tell me, how do you know that you disappear? Something has to know that you disappeared, right?
Right.
So what is that? What is it that knows that you've disappeared?
Yeah, it has to be awareness, consciousness.
So how can consciousness be aware of its own disappearance?
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
What disappears is the disconnection of this body-mind organism.
The body disappears, meaning bodily sensations, yes? You don't feel your hands anymore, you don't feel your belly, you don't feel your toe, you don't feel your eyes, right? The body sensations dissolve. Thoughts about my work, my mother, my car, my house, my retirement, my white hair, my age, disappear, right? Thoughts disappear. Perceptions, looking at this beautiful tree, or looking at the ocean, or looking at the sky, or looking at the birds flying, all that disappears. So yes, bodily sensations, perceptions, and thoughts disappear. But you don't. Consciousness does not.
That's not.
Because if you tell me I disappear, then I have to ask you, it's a logical question, well, how do you know that? It's a logical question.
Right, right.
I ask you, how do you know that? You must know that. Something must know that, because then you tell me, well, I know it, Magdi, because I was there and I saw myself disappearing. Then I ask you, well, what was there? You're going to tell me I was there. I tell you, well, okay, it doesn't make sense what you are saying. How can consciousness know its own disappearance? That makes no sense. Right?
Right.
So consciousness is unborn. It's not, the mind comes and goes, dissolves, disappears, but consciousness never does.
Mm-hmm.
It's the identification with the body, it's the identification with the mind that creates the impression that in deep sleep I disappear. The mind disappears, but because you're identified with the mind, you imagine, oh my God, I've disappeared. But you haven't.
Mm. Mm.
The mind is not there. So the mind cannot say anything about deep sleep because the mind is not there. How can you say anything about the United Nations if you've never been to the United Nations? How can you say anything about the Senegal if you've never been or read or heard anything about the Senegal? You cannot say anything about it, right? So how can the mind, which is not there during deep sleep, say anything about deep sleep?
Okay. But awareness has to be aware of itself in the deep sleep.
What tells you that it's not?
No, I'm curious. Just investigating.
Yes,
Right?
awareness.
For me, I'm very curious about when we go to sleep, right?
Okay.
What happened?
When you are walking around, do you tell yourself every minute, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man?
Of course not. No.
No. But yet you know you're a man. I'm just using it as an analogy. I'm talking about,
Right.
I'm not talking about, that you actually, consciousness is a man. I'm talking about that form.
Right.
So like, when you are not hungry, right? Let's say you're not hungry, right? You had a nice dinner, you're not hungry. Do you sit around and you say, I'm not hungry, 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 I'm not hungry. Oh, now I'm a little bit hungry. Oh, now I'm a little bit more hungry. Oh, now I'm hungry. Now let me go have an omelet. You don't do that, right?
Right.
Consciousness is like that. It's itself. It is itself. It doesn't need to say, I'm conscious. I mean, right now you're conscious, meaning right now there is consciousness, right?
Right.
Yes. Are you saying, I am consciousness, I am consciousness, I am consciousness, I am conscious? No, you're not. But if I ask you, hey, Alvaro, are you conscious? You're going to say, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Or if I ask you, is there consciousness right now? You're going to go, yeah. Because if there was no consciousness, how could I perceive anything? But you don't go around telling yourself, oh, I'm conscious, I'm conscious, I'm consciousness. So, but coming to your question from a different angle, when consciousness knows itself, meaning consciousness is aware of itself, knows itself. In other words, consciousness now knows that it is the reality. I know that I am the reality of all events, and I am the only reality. Yes?
Uh-huh.
And that this reality is not contained, is not limited to a body named Magdi. Okay? It's not limited to any space or any time. It is limitless, borderless presence. Once I know that, that experience is referred to as peace and happiness. So in deep sleep, there is peace and happiness. In the waking state, as you know yourself, as the realization of your true nature has established itself, your experience is that of peace and happiness. In your night dreams are sweet and happy. So the experience of consciousness knowing itself is peace and happiness. Causeless, does not depend on situation, experience, money, wealth, health, relationship.
Gracias, señor.
De nada, Alvaro. Hello, David. Yes, David, you say self-referential thoughts. Yes, the me thoughts, the thoughts that define you as a man, as a mortal body mind. You could refer to them as self-referential thoughts. You see, our true nature, David, is peace and happiness. It's like an open field. It's like looking at the horizon. You know, when you look at the horizon, it's just you're standing by the ocean and you're looking at the horizon. It's just a beautiful open space. That's our true nature. It's our inherent nature is that. And when there is an identification with like me, the father, the mother, the daughter, the son, me in time, me that I am this body, that I am this mortal, I am a mortal entity, you know, in time and space. Now the horizon is no longer like an open, beautiful field of peace and happiness. There is some kind of storm brewing, you know, some kind of, and there is an agitation. It's an agitation. And it's really important to understand that this agitation is the result of this identification. That when you are happy and relaxed, you really are not identified as anything. You might be enjoying the company of your kids and loving it, but in that moment of enjoyment, you're not identified as a father or as any. You're just happy, and your kids are the kids are really like wonderful. They're a great mirror for the adults in that the kids, they haven't yet formed strong identifications. You can see them how bubbly they are and how happy they are easily. You know, it's not complicated for them to be happy, to express their happiness, and before that identity forms. So that whenever there are like as you say, self-referential thoughts that sort of define me as an entity in time and space, a mortal entity, we feel lousy. We feel it in our body. We might not notice. We get used to this lousy feeling anyway. We stop noticing it, but it's sort of there, like a haze, like a haze. It's concern, like an overall concern that it's not 24/7 in our life, but it's there quite a bit. You know, it's quite a bit there. Even in our night dreams, it's there. It's something is nagging us. You know. That's the, I refer to it as the me sense, the sense of me. And of course, then there are situations that trigger a stronger sense of me, like a strong emotion, like you expect your kids to behave in a certain way, or your wife to behave in a certain way, or to listen to you and have maybe some understanding of what you are sharing with her, and maybe she doesn't, or somebody cuts you off in traffic. That there are situations that will occur where that sense of me that's there like a haze, sort of a storm arises, and negative emotions or anger or jealousy or self-hatred or arises. And that whole scene is unhappy. So it's very important to develop some discrimination for that process, an understanding of that process, because there is no pill to take to cure you. You are your own doctor and your own patient, in a way. And you're available to yourself 24/7. You can perceive within yourself what's happening. You know, like when you go to the doctor, you tell the doctor, you call the doctor, you say, "Doctor, I'm not feeling good." And the doctor will ask you, "Okay, well, tell me what's happening for you." You tell the doctor, "Well, I'm feeling something in my chest." He says, "Well, what kind of feeling are you feeling?" You say, "Well, I'm feeling a pinch." And I say, "What sort of pinch? Is it like a spreading pinch? Is it so?" The doctor asks you because the doctor doesn't know what's happening with you. And so you share a lot of information with the doctor, and at some point the doctor says, "Okay, I got it. This is what's happening for you. You need to do this and that." But in your case, which is really beautiful, in all of our cases, we are our own doctors and our own patients. So we don't need to talk to somebody else and tell them what's happening with me. We can look directly and notice the unhappiness that's happening within us. And we can investigate this unhappiness within us by looking directly. And of course, here we are as friends, we're together, and we share some pointers, and that can shed some light onto us and how to diagnose ourselves. No one is forcing us to identify with the mortal body mind. No one is putting a gun at our head and saying, "Okay, hey, listen, I want you to believe, that you are born on such a date and you're going to die, and that you are this body. And if you don't believe that, there's going to be severe punishment." No one is doing that to us. So in a way, one could say that we're doing it to ourselves. Maybe we could say that we did not know better. But we can also say that maybe now we know better. Maybe now we know that we don't need to identify with thoughts and perceptions and sensations. We don't need to identify with the body. That we can contemplate this identification. And a good hint in this contemplation is to consider that the body, the way you know the body, is via bodily sensations. You can sense your body. That's how you know the body. And you also know the body as images and thoughts, images that maybe from looking at pictures, or from looking at yourself in the mirror, or from Looking at your legs and your hands are images. So the way, the experience of the body, which is really outside of our experience of the body, what is the body? I mean, the body is really gets its significance from our experience of it. And how do we experience the body? We experience the body as bodily sensations and as thoughts and maybe perceptions when we're looking at our hand, for example, or our leg. And these experiences, meaning bodily sensations, thoughts, and perceptions, appear through the awareness, without consciousness. Bodily sensations have no meaning. What is a toothache without being aware of this toothache? Without consciousness, what is a toothache? We might as well be talking about pink flying elephants. It means nothing. There has to be awareness, there has to be consciousness that of a toothache at the body level. So every bodily sensation has to come through the reality of consciousness to appear. This is why it is said that the reality of all bodily sensations is consciousness. Because if you remove consciousness, what's a toothache? What is an itch in your knee if there isn't a consciousness of that itch? So the reality of the body, what we refer to as, is consciousness. Now the body can change. For example, the body, you could, I don't know, develop a shoulder ache and then it disappears, or you could, the body was 5 foot tall and now it's maybe 5'10" tall, whatever, you know. The body changes, yes? But consciousness does not. The reality does not change. Now, when I speak about reality, meaning the reality of consciousness, you can ask yourself, well, what is it that is conscious of the toothache? You could say consciousness is conscious of the toothache. And you can also say, which makes perfect sense, I am conscious of the toothache. Right? We all know that. I'm having a toothache, or I'm having an itch. But the I that we refer to when we say I am having a toothache, or I'm perceiving a toothache, not I'm having a toothache, I'm perceiving a toothache, you know, here or here, you know, here or whatever, you know, I'm perceiving a toothache, right? The I is consciousness. But we mistake, and this is where the previous question that I think Alvaro was asking me, I forgot somebody, about illusion. We mistake the mind to be consciousness. We mistake that, oh, it's that the I that is aware of the toothache is a man. Consciousness is not has no gender. So the contemplation, David, is that I am the aware presence. I am the consciousness. The reality of all my experiences is I. I am the reality of all experiences. And this I is consciousness. Not a body-mind. Body-minds come and go. But the reality, in religious terms referred to as God, does not come and go. And I am this reality. I am consciousness. Not God is consciousness somewhere, I don't know. I am consciousness. We know that. We all know that. We just are a little confused. It's good to see you, David. Hello, Isaac. Hey, Isaac. So, Isaac, you ask, does happiness exclude sorrow? Or it appears like a cloud in the sky? What is it that appears like a cloud in the sky? I don't understand your question.
Sorrow should be
sorrow.
Yeah.
Does sorrow appear like does sorrow? Okay, appear like
the sky of happiness.
Does sorrow appear as a cloud?
Because we have an image of what happy is, not what should be. And sometimes you don't know if you are happy or you are not happy. I don't know. It's something like that.
Yeah. Isaac, happiness belongs to consciousness. Happiness is what we are, is what we truly are. The reality of well, the one reality, the reality of everything is happiness, is peace and happiness. So yes, you could say that sorrows are like cloud in the sky. It's very, very lovely, Isaac, when you perceive sorrow as a cloud in the sky. The reason why it's very lovely is because in your description of it, you are recognizing that it's just an event, like clouds come and go. It's a passing event. Mm-hmm. And in that beautiful description of yours, you are basically also expressing the reality of the sky. Mm-hmm. That sorrow, yes, arises and dissolves, but the reality of the sky is untouched by the clouds. And that's the understanding of that, and living with that recognition, with that understanding, is a beautiful path to the light. Mm-hmm. The sky is untouched by the clouds that appear. There is a sorrow, Isaac, that is a sweet sorrow. Like, for example, when we said goodbye in Costa Rica, there was a sweet sorrow because we were really celebrating being together and loving being together. And then we said goodbye and we hugged, and there was a sweet sorrow. The heart was tender. Yeah. So there is a sweet sorrow that arises out of love and out of our tenderness and our interconnectedness. Mm-hmm. Which is different from regret. Sorry, go ahead.
Suffering.
Yes, it's like different from. Yes, it's different from psychological suffering. It's from regret, from guilt, from yes. It's different from psychological suffering. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there is a sorrow also. It's again a sweet sorrow that arises from sensing and from our empathy with all of humanity. Mm-hmm. But again, yes, as you said, it's not suffering. Suffering is always connected to identifying as me and another, me and another, me and the other. It overlooks that what we truly are is this one interconnected awareness, interconnected consciousness. I'll be right back, okay? Okay. Yes, right. I got you, David. So if there are any other questions, anybody that has anything they want to share, explore.
Magdi?
Yes, yes.
And what about the image we have about what happiness should feel like? Something like this. I don't know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We have like sometimes you don't know if you are happy or you are not, or you
Yes.
are happy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know. It's some strange.
Yes. Yes. Cancel. Okay, some weird thing happened here. Okay. So about happiness, how does it feel like or should feel like? Um, I like to use this little story of this fellow. I think I shared it before, but I'll share it again. It's quite relevant. Of this fellow who lived his life carrying a backpack with 50 pounds of rocks in them. Yeah, so he lived his life every day, like climbing, the stairs, going everywhere, carrying 50 pounds of stones in his backpack. And then one day, somebody told him, "Hey, wait a minute, this is crazy what you're doing. Why don't you take off this backpack?" And so he did. And when he took off the backpack, he felt like he was a bird. He was just jumping with joy and running around and telling everybody, "Oh, how fantastic it is to be alive. It's so beautiful." He's buying everybody drinks and celebrating. A month later, he's sitting in a cafe having a cup of tea. And his friend who told him, or the man who told him, "Hey, why don't you take off the backpack," sees him at the cafe and goes to him. Says him, "Hello, hey, how are you doing?" Says, "Oh, I'm doing good. How are you? Sit down, have a cup of tea with me." Says, "Hey, how are you feeling?" Says, "Hey, everything good. Everything's good. Life is good. It's fine. Wife and kids are good. Work is good." So when there is a revelation that of our inherent nature, sometimes there is a great euphoria and a peak of happiness. But with time, you're just naturally happy. So the experience of happiness varies when you have this shift from the me to the freedom. There is a peak experience. But with time, as this happiness stabilizes, as your knowingness of yourself stabilizes, it's just your natural state. You know, in Buddhism, they say the ordinary mind is extraordinary. But in that saying, the Buddhist saying, they don't mean to say that the mind of ignorance is extraordinary. What they mean is that the awakened mind, which is the ordinary mind, which is the mind that is free of ignorance, is ordinary, because ignorance is an add-on. Identification is an add-on. Our natural state, our natural reality, our truth is consciousness. And added onto consciousness are the belief structures that I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm aging, I'm alone, I'm lonely, whatever. So the saying that the ordinary mind is extraordinary does not mean that the mind of ignorance is extraordinary. It refers to the awakened mind, meaning the mind that is free of the added veils of ignorance, the mind that to which the veils of ignorance have dissolved is extraordinary. So in terms of your question about happiness, Isaac, happiness is our natural state. I like what Francis Lucille, the way he puts it, is that when you are happy, you're too busy being happy to even notice that you're happy. You're too busy being happy to notice that you're happy. So it's that way. It's a natural state. It's our most natural state. It's our natural way of being is happiness, peace and happiness. So you notice, like, when you're not thinking about me, my life, my tomorrow, all is well. And then somebody says, oh, you know, did you get that raise? And oh my God, then you start, you know, oh, I didn't get the raise, I should have gotten the raise. And so anyways, I hope I answered your question, Isaac. I noticed that maybe there is something with your internet. For some reason, I think of you're offline, but you can always come back and view the recording on YouTube. So if there are any other questions. Hello, Ananda.
Hello, Magdi.
Okay, Isaac.
You know what? You've talked about this. I wrote this at the beginning.
Oh, you did?
And you've been talking about it the whole time, really. But just the curiousness about there's nothing wrong with me. That it's nothing wrong. Yeah, that's kind of a curious statement, maybe.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said it last time we were talking. I wrote it down.
I better be careful what I say here. So, when you are dreaming,
Oh, my camera's not working. That's okay.
oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So when we speak of me, what are we referring to? So when we say me, we're usually referring to the body-mind. The body-mind that's born, that's growing older every day, and that will in time die. But when you contemplate what is this me, body, mind, you will not find a me, body, mind. You will find consciousness. You will find perceptions, sensations, thoughts that are all known via consciousness, that the reality of which is consciousness. So, me, what we refer to as me, really is consciousness. There is no actual me. There is no separate entity or some entity somewhere called me or is me. The reality of what we refer to as me is I as consciousness. So, in saying there is nothing wrong with me, it's more appropriate to say there is nothing wrong with I. There's nothing wrong with consciousness, which is what would ever be wrong with consciousness? Consciousness is not in the realm of right and wrong, or ease and dis-ease. Ease and dis-ease belong to the mind dimension, what we refer to as the storyline. To the feeling realm. But consciousness is beyond all of that. Consciousness is the reality of all dreams, of all impressions. And like we said earlier, it's like the wide open sky that is not affected by whatever clouds arise in it. So the impression that there is somebody speaking, somebody meaning a person speaking, is a dream impression. The reality is that it is consciousness that speaks and consciousness that hears. It is consciousness that conceives and perceives, that creates and experiences itself. It co-creates and co-experiences itself. The world, body, mind is the co-creation of consciousness, which is the experiencer of the world, body, mind.
So me is like a cloud in the sky, and yet there is no me, really. Peculiar.
Well, if you refer to me as all mind events, you won't refer to it as a me. Me usually refers in our conversations to a separate particular person. In other words, to a separate consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what usually we mean when we say me. We're referring to a particular consciousness. Consciousness A is me, and consciousness B is you. Right?
Yes. I kind of assumed that by saying there's really nothing wrong with me, what you meant was even the arising of a impression of me. Somebody comes and puts their hand on your shoulder, you turn, and that there's a sensation of me, me as a body, mind, something is turning and responding. At the same time, there's I, which is free no matter what happens. But
Well, right now you hear these words, yes?
Yes.
Is there a me? Okay. Why don't you turn your head to the right? Okay. Did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was there a me?
No. No.
Are you alone in the room right now?
No, Suzanne is over watching it on another screen.
Ask Suzanne to come and put her hand on your shoulder. Suzanne, can you please put your hand on the shoulder?
She's coming right over.
Beautiful. 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 She did? Yeah, I cannot see you. Yes, she did. Okay. Is there a me?
Especially at the very moment of the hand touching, it was clear that it was just a perception. Yeah.
It's all consciousness. Thank you, Suzanne.
And now I put my hand on her hand, on my shoulder,
Voila.
and it's just love. It's not a me.
Right.
Or a her.
Right. So the way we refer to me is as me is at consciousness A, and you is consciousness B.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what is going on. Right now, you hear these words.
Mm-hmm.
There is consciousness right now. And this consciousness right now has no borders.
Mm-hmm.
But contemplate that. Is there a place where the consciousness that hears these words right now, is there a place where it starts?
No, it's kind of an ever-present spaciousness.
Right. So how can you refer to that has no borders, that's no limitations, no form, no shape, no size, no viscosity, no density? How can you refer to it as a me? I mean, why refer to it as a me?
Mm-hmm.
Because a me, the way we conceive of a me is it has some borders.
Yes. So in the structure of my question was indicated that I'm still seeing that box, that little world of boxes of me's as some kind of a functional reality or something like that. It's not the most expanded way to see it.
Well, are you? I mean, are you?
Well, right now it's pretty spacious.
I mean, you don't need to live according to some past beliefs or some past stories.
Mm-hmm.
You have to live in the freshness of your current contemplation.
Yes.
So you could say that life is contemplation. Well, you could say that.
Yeah, I would say that.
It's an ever deepening and an ever expanding and celebrating contemplation.
Mm-hmm. Like, for example, as you said, if I'm walking in the redwoods, which are right outside my door, if I go walking in the redwoods, I have to perceive them. There has to be consciousness for there to be an experience, and then the more I contemplate that spaciousness, I'm using the word spaciousness, I somehow love it right now. It's so me, free of me.
Mm-hmm.
As I contemplate it, then the redwoods are absolutely filling. They're absolutely incredible, and my experience is incredible.
Yeah, it's true. But also, you don't go out and walk in the woods, in the redwoods.
Okay. Right.
You don't go anywhere. Redwoods appear to you. Walking appears to you. You don't walk. Walking, the impressions of walking, what we refer to as walking, appears to you. For example, right now, Ananda, imagine that you are sleeping on the planet Zircon out in space, and you're dreaming this dream. Right?
I can easily.
It could be.
I can easily do that. Yeah.
So right now, there is the impression that you are talking with Mendy. But in fact, you're not doing anything. You're resting in Zircon. You're resting on the planet Zircon. I'm using that as a metaphor.
No, here in Zircon we float a few feet above the ground, and it's very comfortable.
I have to watch what metaphors I use with you. I can see that. You have a tendency to float right away. In our experience, our before the mind interprets, before the habitual conversation, it's just pure consciousness.
Even though it's presenting as a habitual conversation.
Yes.
That's great. That's crucial, really, for freedom.
Yes. Consciousness doesn't go anywhere, doesn't come and go, doesn't age. It's not in that realm. It's peace, tranquility, peace and happiness, freedom, joy, peace and happiness, beauty, love, intelligence.
Just a kind of a related thing. Everything's related, I guess. But when you talk about dreams and dream being sweet, I find that lots of times I'm aware that a considerable amount of the night is going by, and there's something I'm working out. It's kind of like it could be a patient that I'm trying to. In fact, last night I was kind of aware of this dream that there was a patient, and I was kind of helping the patient's spouse, but I wasn't really supposed to. I'm not allowed to. You know, I'm only allowed to help the person. It's not even legal to give advice to the other person. And so I was working this kind of thing out, and it wasn't exactly pleasant. It was kind of, work. Yeah.
So sometimes in the night dream, of course, there is less activity. There isn't much stimulation. The body is dissolved. So there is more space and room for the mind to work things. Sometimes people solve a lot of their problems or organize their day, throughout in their dream state. In the dream state, they do that. And it's the fact that there are less stimulation. There is no body and there is no world. It's just mind. So there is more space to, in your case, are you sharing the example of negotiating, some work situation?
Yes.
But what is your question about that?
Well, it's almost like it's almost like there's a contemplation going on, but it's not that conscious. It's in the dream state, and so it's not as conscious, and therefore I don't feel the sweetness of a clarity of a easiness.
Well, the contemplation that matters is what is perceiving this perception. So it's possible, you can contemplate that, but it is possible in your dream state.
To be more aware of that.
Of the perceiver.
Yes. Yes.
Of the dreamer.
The dreamer.
Yes. Yes.
And in fact, even in that experience last night, there was almost a little bit of a struggle to like, oh, all this mentation is going on. It felt like the same mentation as the waking state in a way,
right,
but more vague.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. So you can contemplate what is perceiving this. That will take you to consciousness.
Well, I'd love to have the night and the day be.
Well, at some point, at the contemplation, actually, the laboratory is the waking state. Yes. And at some point, it permeates the night dream.
I see.
There is a natural flow from the waking state to the dream state, and at some point, the dream state becomes very sweet. But the main lab is in the waking state, what we're referring to right now as this waking state. Right? And if it's possible, I mean, if that arises, just planting the seed that it's possible in your dream state also, as dreams arise, situations such as the situation you were describing with your client, that you could contemplate what is perceiving this perception.
So there have been times at night when I can remember them vividly where, for example, I would feel John Klein was sitting with me. I'm dreaming, but there he is. There's a big smiling face. And the sense of joy and clarity of consciousness was beyond the waking state and the dream state. It was that beatific type of thing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't consciously aware of the issue of me being consciousness. It was more like something else, a whole field of joy, but not particularly that clarity that you're pointing to of the self-knowing. And maybe that's just why it comes and goes, because it's not. Or maybe that's why something in the being is looking for an influx of grace or something, because it hasn't become completely integral to step back into reality, so to speak.
Well, what's nice, Ananda, is that your love for truth is very clear to you, and so that will take you home.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of nice my camera's not working. I'm less self-conscious.
Well, okay, so looking at myself here.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay. Okay, beautiful. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, well, if there are no other questions, thank you very much for your lovely company, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you. Okay, okay, Isaac. See you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Okay, de nada. Hasta luego.